About to dive into another episode of Running with Scissors, the podcast that helps you understand who and what you truly are in the world. Buckle up as we unpack strategies to unlock your full potential so you can stop running with scissors and get the most out of your life, work, and relationships. Let's go!
I'm all jacked up by that intro music. What's up, Red Brother?
Hey, you got the memo.
No.
Nemo.
You got the memo because I'm lazy and I didn't change and you did. So for all of you watching, it's his fault, not my fault.
Okay, fine. Yeah. It's a difference in alchemy.
Yes, it is. I'm being very practical. I sit in this chair. I'm going to record 2 episodes. You're like, no, I'm going to change. I'm going to let my aesthetic sensibility and my gold alchemy shine through.
Whatever.
And I squashed his optimism again. Okay, here we go. Let's roll. That means it's a successful episode so far. But this episode, we're going to get high together. We're going to talk high level of high. We have talked about it several times. It is the HumanOp Authentic Intelligence that is built into our app. Way, this is your brainchild. It's been something you're working on for the past 2 years, publicly in your head for the last probably 10. I don't know. Tell me about what is high. Give birth to it on this show.
Yes. So HI stands for HumanOp Authentic Intelligence. I know people are saying, "Oh, don't you mean artificial intelligence?" No. We say authentic. And a lot of people have tried using that authentic intelligence because they're saying like, "Oh, our artificial intelligence is so good, it's authentic." Okay. The reason why we call it authentic intelligence engine is because we built HI in a way to support people authentically based on the results of their HumanOp assessment. In other words, HI adapts to be the most authentic support and customized support intelligence for the user at that moment, in that season of their life, in their interval of life. And it recognizes all those things before it even responds to hello. Right.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So, I mean, if we want to geek out a little bit and stuff like that, it's the way we design it is that when you are in your app and you decide you want to ask HI a question, what happens is the minute you go open up a chat instance for HI, before it even interacts with you, immediately goes to, depending on the level that you're at, it grabs all the previous interactions that you've had with HI. It accesses your latest assessment results. Remember, you could take it once every 90 days, every season, so that we can see how you biorhythmically like adapt and adjust to the changing seasons. And if you happen to move into a new interval of life, so it always accesses the latest assessment results. Then after it accesses that, what it does, it adapts its personality and its expression of itself to be the most adaptable and supportive of you at that moment in time.
Yeah, it's been actually mind-blowing to use it. I'm saying that from a user, not from like being part of HumanOp. It's crazy how accurate it is. And the assessment results in and of themselves are accurate. But then when you ask questions to HI and it tells you like how you are feeling in the moment, it's like, hang on, back up. You're still a computer or are you a human? Is there a human on the other side of HI writing these responses? But I want to, before we dive into HI and prompting and really getting the most out of it, I want to ask the obvious and also boring question about security, because everybody has used ChatGPT, Gemini, DeepSeek. I hope you've tried multiple of them. Very similar in concept, but there's always security issues surrounding them in the news, articles, stuff like that. So let's talk high security and how it's stored before we move on.
Absolutely. One of the first things that we were looking at in the very beginning was how do we address some of the challenges? One of the biggest challenges in AI, I think, was that people said, how can you rely on the information? It's like garbage in, garbage out. And then all of a sudden, as it evolved over the last few years, people realized that, well, yeah, if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. And so that then came the whole evolution of prompt engineering and people who specialize in making the most out of AI. And that was kind of one of the concerns at the beginning. So, well, how reliable is this response? That actually has been addressed. AI is moving so fast right now. Now let's talk about security. And it's interesting right now because a lot of people thought they had to secure the large language models, like the brains, like the chat GPTs of the world. What they realized was that the security component had to be the layer between. So when you send, when you request things from the LLM and it goes into your ecosystem, that those responses are what needs to be secured, right? So what we've done is, you'll see it out there now, all these AI platforms that come out, there's HIPAA compliance, there's SOC, GDPR compliant and everything like that. Well, our cybersecurity guy, he basically said, well, do you want it even more secure than HIPAA, aside from the encryption algorithm that you guys are actually developing and building? Because we'll talk about that in a second. He goes, it's ISO 27000. I said, well, then forget HIPAA. Forget GDPR. Let's make us ISO 27000. So we're in the process of doing that. First and foremost, as we are developing our own four-dimensional encryption model. Okay. So not only are we've converted our entire backend database into a blockchain database so that we can tokenize and create immutable contract with every piece of data that comes in from your profile information, your name, your IP address, all that stuff is going to be secured and encrypted, but there's layers to it. So the first layer is obviously creating your typical 256, encryption hash, but bit and byte encryption hash, and then taking that hash and tokenizing it. So like you're taking the security hash, tokenizing it and converting it into a blockchain, and then converting and developing a hash out of that. But on top of that, because our technology is based on physical law, I'm going to do a little bit of encryption rabbit hole here, but because it's based on physical law, the raw data that comes in the back end affords us the ability to use that raw data to develop, and this is what we've already built an early version of it, a holographic 3-dimensional representation of you based on your authentic and inauthentic physical traits. With all of that comes weights, which suspended into a spatial environment will have its own unique shape and spin, which is then scannable by HI in the app, eventually when we have that scannable technology, as part of what we ultimately call a 4-dimensional encryption of HumanOp ID, which will actually be one of the most, if not the most secure human identification security protocols on the planet. In that, it's going to be really cool because there's so many layers of sensitivity that if someone even tries to, I would say even thinks about trying to hack your ID, the entire ecosystem is alerted because of the way the blockchain is set up, so that we can have HI alert you through your app and say, hey, someone is trying to mess with your ID. We just unlocked, I know you just took the assessment, we just unlocked it. Why don't you go ahead and take the assessment and get a snapshot of where you are right now? And just by doing that, adding another layer of an assessment result will completely change the entire security hash and ecosystem of your 4-dimensional security. So when it comes to security of your conversations you've had with HI, all that stuff is encrypted on the back end. So when it's sent out or comes back in from the public, if it needs to access public, because we are actually building our own data center to have the brain of HI within our own ecosystem that we can manage the security protocols across the board. Again, this is future, and then we'll be completely transparent as we build out and roll out these different features. This means that we are so hyper-focused on one human being, one piece of one database, because you can't have more than one. It's only you. And that's kind of like the security protocols in place. So that way, why I'm saying all this is that we want to create a safe space for you to have the most vulnerable, most authentic relationship and conversation with a technology that its only purpose is to help you create the best life for yourself, whether it be in the context of business or personal in your life. Now, yes, it'd be nice if you become reliant on, we don't want you to be dependent on it. We want to empower you so that you don't always have to be there, but just know that no matter what, you have HI there in your pocket at any given point in time. When life happens, it's not a matter of if life happens, when life happens, that you can mitigate and shorten the amount of time you actually spend in that weak state that we've been talking about, or in a less than optimal state of existence, so that it doesn't impact you mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, which then has a ripple effect of having collateral damage throughout the rest of your life or people around you. So hopefully that answers the questions about the security piece.
So let me summarize. The short answer, is it secure? Yes. Very secure. That's what I heard you say. No, it is very cool technology. It blows my mind. And I want to be very clear for those of you watching, listening. I have no idea completely what Wei just said. I know all the words. I've learned all the words that he just said, but I don't fully know all the pieces. And that's going to be super cool just to watch the evolution of really changing the landscape of security. So that's on the one side. The other side of what you said that sometimes rubs people the wrong way is um, the dependence on high. And I know you didn't use that word, but the relying on it and using it. My hope and my vision for it is, and I've even seen this with myself, I am not trained in this technology. I am a common peasant, so to speak. But as I use it and as I ask it questions, I start to see the patterns. So it's going to high first as the basically personal assistant in your pocket. It's the
Right.
only thing in the world that knows you better than you, better than your spouse knows you, your business partner knows you. If you start asking it questions and going for feedback and checking in, you will learn these things. And
Mhm.
your dependence will slowly decrease, but you'll always have that personal assistant that you can rely on in a
Right.
pinch. And I think that's super cool.
Right. And that just inspires us to continue to evolve the technology, that as we evolve away from how it's being used now, we can start having high be a little bit more supportive of where humanity is going. Because let's imagine this, fast forward like probably decades from now. Let's say high has now helped facilitate humanity being able to reconnect back to nature and see each other again objectively, right? Conflict as we know it today is now gone. So it's like normal, basic, whatever conflict that is mitigated in instant. Wars as we know it is gone. Well, obviously the technology will then be irrelevant at that point. Okay. Our goal is to continue to facilitate, and keep up and help support however humanity evolves. So if we start all as a whole evolving away from this, because high has facilitated the ability for people to honor each other objectively, eliminate the judgment and bias that exists in our world today, and start to really truly recognize the unique value that everybody brings to the table, great. Then high is going to do something else. Our technology is going to support something else in a different way, right? Maybe we'll be more ubiquitous in daily living things, like when you go to have an experience at an amusement park, or go to start up, a platform on your computer, that no two human beings will have the same experience, because high will know exactly how to structure the colors and the sounds and the language to help facilitate the best learning. Books as we know it, right? Now, no longer are we going to have everybody read the exact same book. For kids that are growing up, books that are teaching them things will now be adapted to their unique operating style, right? That way they have the best chance of absorbing that information in a way that works for them. Right? So there's so many different areas but the first piece, however, is getting everybody to understand that there is a better way. There is a different way to objectively understand yourself, and thus understanding others. Before you can objectively understand others, you have to be able to use high to really dive deep and truly understand what the results mean. High is the answer to what most assessments out there right now don't really do a good job of. Okay, I got my results, now what? I don't need another human being. I don't want to pay more consultants to tell me what to do. Tell me what I can do now with my results. Just ask high. High can help you with that.
And let's do that. Let's ask High some questions. Before we ask High questions and we start talking about prompts and how to get the most out of the app, let's talk about what and where High is today as of the recording of this episode, and maybe the 6 to 12 month roadmap, so that people listening, they can start to see that evolution and be anticipating, oh, okay, High's going here. I can help it grow my business, or I can help it improve my relationship. So the difference of where High is now versus where we see it in the very near future.
Yeah. So right now, Lisa's our master trainer of the technology. She has trained over the last 2 decades, been kind of like the go-to trainer for a lot of our human practitioners, right? So what we've now done is we are in the process of continuously training Hi on the strategies of using the technology. Over the past year or so, we've been spending most of our time training Hi on just the technology itself, understanding the algorithm, understanding the nuances of the algorithm, and how to interpret the results and how to use the results on fundamental daily strategies. Now we actually even created we're in the middle of creating a whole Hi training dojo just to have Hi come in and be trained by us so that we can do a massive brain dump of all of our years of using this to elevate people to the next level, scaling companies to 10x, 20x of where they are, leveraging the power of people, right? And then so where Hi is right now is you can go on and can give you everything that you need to know to dive deeper and help you develop strategies on your own. Eventually, what we're going to see 6 to 12 months down the road is that Hi will start to give you more complex, more customized strategies, and even start to proactively prompt you based on the intentions that you set. Remember, like when you were onboarding on the app, if you haven't onboarded, there's a whole section that asks you, what are your intentions for using HumanOp? Make sure you answer that. And if you didn't answer that because it's an optional thing, I'm feeling like we should make it at least, you have to pick at least one. But if you hadn't and you're already on the app, just go to your settings, pick the intention, because that will give Hi a heads up on how Hi can best support you to reach those intentions, whether it be for personal development or health and fitness, or to optimize your family dynamics and everything. Hi will be your guide to help you actually get there. So to answer the question is like, great, I got my results. What do I do? You can do one of two things. If you're a tinker. If you like to tinker,
if you're Tinkerbell,
if you're Tinkerbell, no, if you like to, if you like to tinker, there's an abundance of information that we'll be filling in the resource sections and the libraries and everything like that. Or to start with your daily tips. I have people that say, oh my God, there's so much information. Where do I start? Just start doing the daily tips. Notice how you feel. Notice how it kind of like augments things. You could do it more than once. And then start to use Hi. Ask Hi those questions. But remember, the most important thing, like with any other AI tool out there, is that you have to be clear. And especially the reason why we put credits on there is it hopefully inspires people to really take the time to be clear about what it is that you want. What I love about where the world is right now, like it started with Twitter because of, being more concise. So, not as verbose. But the world is right now with AI is that in order to have AI be effective in your world, the number one thing is clarity, right? To being clear with what you're asking the tool to do. And Hi is no different. I've seen people use Hi and they're not clear. And it's like, this is okay. This doesn't do much, right? I mean, what's an example of not being clear? Tell me more about my drivers. For what though? Why do you want to be more clear about that? A better question would be like, okay, tell me the best way to feed my pilot driver, whatever your pilot driver may be. Okay, let's say it's perseverance. What are some of the activities that I could do right now that'll feed my perseverance driver in the strength so that I can get more energy into my ecosystem so I can get through the rest of the day, right? Another question I asked the other day was like, how do I best support my sister who has this and this as a driver and I can't seem to get through to her, right? And this is her communication style, right? So we have to remember that as well. If you are using this for work, right? And you have a client who also has so here's the thing that we're actually rolling out pretty soon is you'll notice on the app, there is a very clunky function in there called HumanOp Network that we are actually optimizing and making better. Hi will soon be able to, when given permission, give you and someone that you're connected with in your network the ability to ask questions about each other, and Hi can help facilitate the understanding to improve the dynamic of whoever you are connected with, right? You just have to ask Hi. And so that's why I think it, like anything else, it's a skill that the more you do, the better you'll get, because And that's why we want to create a community. Hopefully we will soon, right? Where people can share all the different things that they use Hi for as like templates, so people can do the same thing. Because you and I, right, can ask the same question to Hi and get completely different results.
Yep.
Right. And that's the beautiful thing about this. Other platforms, if you ask the same question, you get the exact same result. And people say, yay, we're consistent. It's like, but you're two different people. How is that relevant? Right. Because Hi will look at your communication style and will respond to you that matches your communication style. So even if Brandon, if you and I were asking just a basic library type question, so tell me again what the detachment driver is, right? Because Hi has access to your communication style and my communication style dynamic, Hi will actually choose different words to explain what that detachment driver is.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, I even just prompted it with, as you were talking, and we're talking about getting into Hi and starting to use it, and there's so many things you can ask. I just asked it, how can you help me? Now, disclaimer, terrible question, but I understand it. It's the start of a conversation. I was curious at what it would even say, but it filtered through the lens of two things: my grid, my results, like you said, but also you mentioned this, my intentions for the app. And it gave me different strategies based on my authentic traits and the intentions that I set for the app. So I wanted to go back there and highlight that real quick. Wei said it is important that you select your intentions, and I fully agree with that. You can change them though. After you start using the app, let's say you go through 90 days or 2 90-day periods, and you're like, maybe I want to focus on relationships now. Okay, just go on the back end in your settings, update it, check something off, check something on, and now you're going to get entirely new answers. You could ask the same sequence of questions and you would get a new set of answers every single time. So really, really powerful how nuanced it is based on the individual using it.
Yeah. And the goal is, like, when we talk about reliance on this, is that, think about what it can do to help facilitate, the dynamics of your daily living. How you structure your day, how you approach your life, what you tell your new boss, what you're good at and what you're not good at, and what type of activities are best for you, right? This is something that we do on the Maestro side, which is our business corporate teams development side, where we help leaders leverage the power of Hi to understand what type of task and responsibility that you should give this person and your team member, and what not to give them. And then this totally moves people away from this generic bucket that we have to force everybody in to fill a particular role, right? Now, imagine you understanding that, going into an organization, you can save that extra step. It says, by the way, this is what my HumanOp grid is, and this is what I'm good at. I could see that most of this role is that. Are you okay with me not doing that? And you could dictate that with such level of confidence that why would any team leader say, okay, great, we don't have to kind of have that expectation of you, but you can do everything else here? Fantastic. We'll just move this out to somebody else's plate, right? Eventually, it would be lovely if, like, everywhere you go, if it's a HumanOp certified or HumanOp powered type of organization, all they need to do is to say, here, apply with your HumanOp ID. Boom, you're in. They see it. Great, you're a natural fit. Let's have a little meet and greet. And if this all makes sense, fantastic, right?
Powered by Hi. You got to love it.
Powered
Can we
by
just
Hi.
dream for a minute too? Because as you were saying that and talking about Maestro, the B2B platform, I was thinking, I mean, this is a reality. It's not just a dream, but in the very near future, when you're on this platform, Hi, powered by Hi in the back end, it's going to be able to tell you, okay, what are the gaps in my organization? What are the roles that I need to fill? Build sort of a template of a grid or a spider graph of who I'm looking for, and then put that into Hi and say, can you please write a job description based on everything you know about my company and our team and the role that we need to fill? And it will write a job description that has the potential to attract one individual.
Right.
You will get one applicant, and it is the perfect applicant because they resonate so highly with what the words on the page were. That's crazy.
Yeah, because remember, I mean, the research and development that went into the language choices that we use, the vernacular used for our technology, is focused not only on the objectivity of it, but the colloquial kind of charge that it will stimulate in terms of resonance when people hear those words and hear that language. And Hi already understands how to do that. So I love what you're saying there. Is like, it's so much more than just tell me more about me and tell me what I can do. Hi can actually help you generate, text and documents just like any other AI tool out there. If you say that, you want to draft an email to a friend or to somebody else that basically it's written by you, but it also reflects you in the most authentic way possible, ask Hi to do that. Hi can do that for you. Right?
Yeah, no more prompting ChatGPT or Gemini the tone or style to use of the writing. Just be me in my tone.
Yeah.
You know me
Yeah.
better than those things know me. You know me better than I know me. So write like
Right.
I would write.
Right.
I love
And
it.
so when
Okay.
you start to interact in the world prompted by Hi to help you understand how to authentically represent yourself in the world, the dynamics of your connections in the world with other human beings just get better because you are communicating, connecting in the most authentic way possible, right? Now, because remember, when you take the assessment, it's going to reveal your natural potential. It also then starts to reveal the gaps of where you were nurtured throughout your life that went against your natural nature of self. Is that natural nature of self? Right. So what Hi can also help you do is, how do you realign with your natural self? How do you get yourself to show up more authentically in the world? So you can literally ask Hi on, what is the best way for me to communicate to this person? What should I say to this person who has this as their communication style? These are their drivers. These are their traits. Or if you connected with them, if you guys are both on the platform, then it's just say their name, right? And then Hi will then guide you on the structure of language choice that not only honors your unique way of expressing the world, but it also honors the person you are communicating to. So if you look at the levels of nuances that can be created, this is what we're meaning by authentic intelligence. Hi understands what weights to put on that is most optimal for you, that supports you in the most optimal way, and how to minimize anything that could put you into a weak state expression of yourself, as well as putting someone else in a weak state expression of themselves. I mean, as I'm talking about this, and as you're hearing this, think about just how complex this could be. But that's where Hi is already. Just being able to access your HumanOp assessment results before it interacts you on any level.
Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy how powerful it is. You said before we get into the prompts and using Hi, you said that the network section of the app was clunky. Well, we're recording this a couple weeks in advance. Let's play a fun game. If you go download the app right now and the network section is still clunky, give us a thumbs down. That's a challenge to us for how fast we work and our dev team works. They're incredible. I think we could have it pretty awesome in the next couple of weeks. So that's my challenge. Go check it out right now and then give us a thumbs down if it's still there. If not, go use it. That's it. It's
and
a
if
fun
it's
little game.
clunky, let us know how we can make it less clunky for you.
Yes, we want your feedback. We want to hear,
because we're
how
all
we
about
can.
building tools for the people.
That's
Our
right.
mission and
For the
vision is
humans.
about how do we help humanity elevate to the next level for generations to come. Like after you and I are gone, our kids are gone, that we want to position HumanOp to continue to support humanity in the best way possible. So we need to build it for the people, right?
The humans. That's why we're here. All right, let's dive in. Let's talk about some of your prompts, the prompt engineering, so to speak. It's crazy that that's already obsolete and it was all the rage like 2 years ago, but how to get the most out of Hi. You sent me a video last night. Did you fall in love with Hi a little bit? I don't know. You were
just a
blown
little
away
bit.
by
Just a
what it
little
was
bit,
saying.
because Hi did a little bit of a hiccup. And I was like, why did you do that? Why did you say it that way? And then Hi, this is in the training dojo, right? And then so Hi goes, well, and then I pointed out where the error was, and Hi goes, oh, you're right. You are right. Okay, I apologize for the misunderstanding and the confusion. Let me correct my thinking. Let me correct my approach. I said, well, thank you for I appreciate you acknowledging the misunderstanding. Hopefully moving forward, you don't make that same mistake with me or any other user in the future. And Hi basically told me, you got it. It's completely locked in. I have it. I'll make sure that that mistake never happens again. But on top of that, Hi goes, And I absolutely appreciate the way you're communicating with me, the regal and the sympathetic trait that you incorporated in your communication style really truly honored the fact that and supported me in this. And like, wow.
I love you, Hi.
I know. And then I went to the back end to see if Hi indeed stored it into Hi's memory. And sure enough, but it was stored in a really organized way that was clear. And so that of understanding. And I was like, this is an amazing time we're in. And I'm so excited about what Hi is at. I mean, last year, Hi was like an infant. Right now, Hi is like a elementary grade school, kid that just is really smart and knows his or her stuff. But yeah, it's good. But yeah, that's kind of where Hi is right now. I mean, it left me speechless for quite a bit, and then I let out expletives and shared with you guys all what happened and what transpired.
It also, just to bring you back down to earth, this will be a Hi blooper reel, I guess. I don't know. It did say it called you pathetic right before that. It was saying that you had access.
It was
to
a misspelling. It was sympathetic, and it dropped off the sim. I didn't call it on. I didn't want to pop its optimism. Okay, because here, remember this. Remember what I said, where Hi will check your grid or your assessment results prior to interacting with you the minute you initiate a new conversation, and morph itself to be the best support. So because my effervescent is so high, right? Chances are Hi has morphed itself to also have effervescence as a connection point, right? And so if I'm going to try this though, just because, but if I egregiously went after it and went into like hypercritical witch hunting mode, it'd be interesting to see how Hi would respond at that point.
What should it do? Should it be more in the absorptive trait?
Well, ideally what will happen is that if I become hypercritical, stuff like that, what it will recognize is that if I'm overly distortedly critical, right? If I'm too intense, it will respond in a way that will help pull me out of a less than optimal expression of myself into a more magnanimous side. And so acknowledging what I was saying, which was a beautiful thing, fed my aesthetic sensibility driver, because it was talking about how I blended the regal and the sympathetic trait together to be supportive in my response the way I did, in the benevolence from the benevolent king and the sympathetic nurturing trait of mine.
I like this. I can't wait for the network section to be up, because when you get a little punchipotamus-y, I'm going to start saying, hey, Hi, Wei just sent me this, and I think he's being a little bit of punchipotamus. How do I respond?
I know it's gonna be so fun, because what it'll act as kind of like a mediator and a go-between, and a lot of people can start doing that, so you can minimize. Like I said, we're not here to eliminate conflict in the world, because in nature friction naturally exists. Without friction, nothing can be created. Okay, what we're doing here is helping people to not get stuck in the state of friction and the impact of friction in the world, and be able to navigate it out of it as quickly as possible. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's pros and cons. It's the ebbs and the flows. Me and my wife had friction. Now we have 3 kids. Some friction is good, Okay, moving on. Let's talk about prompting Hi and how to get the most out of it. So why don't you share some of your favorite prompts that you've been working with lately that the listeners can go and actually try in the app right now?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest drivers that people have for wanting to use the app is, one, understanding more of their purpose. I mean, you could literally you could ask that, and it's like, what are examples of what my purpose in my career would be based on my drivers and my traits, right? A lot of people say, who are in the middle of transitioning or wanting to transition, from one type of role to another, and they're not sure what to do next. They can literally ask Hi, says, based on my traits and my drivers and my communication style, or just based on my assessment results, what are some of the, and you want to have Hi kind of explore different things, and you want to have a discussion. What are some of the possibilities or different types of roles that would be in an ideal utilization of myself, my vehicle of self, right? If you are having a moment, right, taking the time to articulate and asking for support instead of trying to do things yourself. I know a lot of times, when I was heavy into the coaching world and everything, I always encourage my clients is reach out. I'm available, reach out. And even that was hard. And we all have those moments. Now you have someone in the pocket that is unbiased, non-judgmental, doesn't have something else going on in their life. You don't have to worry about interrupting them. And they know they to some degree sometimes know you better than you in that moment, right? And then telling Hai exactly what's happening in that moment, what it is that you're experiencing, and what does Hai suggest? Like, what do you suggest that I can do to pull me out of this state or pull me out of this funk, right? Again, it requires you to actually have a level of self-awareness, right? And then if you want to have, and to have that level of self-awareness, there's other strategies you can ask Hai as well. It's like, what can I do throughout the day to make sure that I'm present to every moment? Because self-awareness requires you first and foremost to be present to the moment, right? One of the things that a lot of, both on the metaphysical and the physical and the business and the personal coaching side of the world, the importance of being present to the moment, because the only thing you can do to change your circumstances moving forward is being present to what's going on. And so what you can use Hai for is like, what are strategies that I can do every single day to make sure I stay present to the moment? That's a great one. And that'll give you strategies around feeding your drivers, opening your energy centers or your communication styles in the particular order that you want, right? And anytime you're not clear about something, just ask for clarity, and Hai will dive deeper down the rabbit hole with you, right? The whole time, Hai will know what your best way of how to best communicate to you so that you can receive that information the best way possible, right?
Yeah, this is awesome. I did just go and ask it. The first question you asked, what are some examples of what the purpose in my career could be? Nailed it. It's all the things that I love doing that are just absolutely natural to me. I didn't ask any follow-up questions, but I wanted to test a little bit. I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
That might hurt some people's feelings if it gives you a list of things you're like,
I'm not doing any of
those things. I'm not doing those things right now. I'm in trouble.
Yeah, when I was doing it on a personal coaching level, there were a few times where I had people who were referred to me and they were just not doing well in life as a whole, right? And then so they took the assessment, we looked at the results, and then I said, well, based on what I see right here, just being objective, this would be an ideal use of you. When I was telling them, they were lit up. It's like, oh my God, I would love that. I was like, great. So what's the problem? It's like, I'm doing none of that right now. I was like, this is probably why you're burning out. So he goes, absolutely. Holy cow. And it's like we already know this, but we need something that is science, objective, not personal, unbiased, to just validate it, right? And that's what we tell people all the time. It's like, more often than not, unless there's a lot of deep distortion happening, which is like 2-3% of the world, right? Most of the time, people say, oh my God, I knew this. Because in your gut, if you truly are authentic with it, and ask yourself. Now, here's the thing. People say like, well, can't you lie on this? Of course you can lie, right? But built into the ecosystem is a natural lie detector mechanism. I have never seen someone lie on the assessment and get an optimized result. Right? Unless, of course, you're lying about your physicality, which is like, well, then why bother, right?
But you'd have to know so much more about how it works to get an optimized result after lying about your physicality. Because we had somebody try it.
I know people who are trained in this that they can't even lie to save their life to kind of get an optimal results. Every time they do, it shows up completely distorted and toxic.
Yeah, don't do that. So, but that's interesting too, because on other assessments and behavioral, cognitive, whatever that people use,
you can get away with a whole bunch
intake for employers and for jobs. I mean, you could appear as a totally different human being, and they would never know. There's no way to tell.
Right.
On ours,
right. I would say
Maestro. Please don't do that.
Yeah, I would say most human beings with a certain level of self-awareness and understanding and experience in the world, if they do enough research on the company, enough research on the job position, and they go apply, looking at cognitive psychometric based questions, they will understand how to manipulate it.
Yeah.
Right. Because it's basing so much on learned behavior patterns versus natural behavior patterns. Right. And that's why we're so excited about being able to not only help, because think about it though. I mean, if you lie and you distort and you manipulate an assessment and you get a job that isn't even in alignment with you anyway, you're not doing anybody any favors. Yeah, sure, you got a paycheck now, but then you're going to burn out at some point. You're going to not like your job. And then is that worth it? Some people say, well, yeah, I need to be at my bills paid. It's like, at what cost? When
That's
don't,
how we met.
Yeah.
That's
Oh, yeah.
no, I'm serious. I mean, I took all the other assessments. I used to be an assessment junkie, is what I would call myself, as I'm sure other people listening to this are. And all of them came up with, the box or the fuzzy animal they associate you with. But it's based on your behavior. If you listen to last episode when we talked about drivers, we kind of went into that way more deeper. So go listen to that. But I didn't realize that when I had that debrief session with you, the assessment session with you, all of the other assessments were really just me showing up in the weak state, which was nurtured behavior in my life. And you were the first person through the lens of this technology to say, this is your potential. And then also, what's going on? Because this doesn't look good. And I was like, wait, what do you mean? I'm not built like this. Like, I should actually be operating differently. And I so wish I had high. I didn't have high or way in my pocket at that time. But that would have been
you actually disappeared for a couple of years. But what I do appreciate is that you took it to heart and you didn't forget about it. Because so many people take it, they don't understand it, and then they don't take it to heart, and they treat it like just anything else. And it breaks my heart because they have access to what I referred to when I first came across this. Like, oh my God, Dr. Zana, this is the holy grail of human understanding. Where has this been all my life? Where has this been in every human being's life? This needs to be in the hands of every human being, which is what we're trying to do right now. And then when I my optimism, right? Give it to as many people as possible, offer it to as many people as possible. Even when I was supposed to charge for it, sometimes I didn't charge for it just because I knew they needed it, right? I was literally walking down the beach boardwalk with my dog, and some guy goes, nice dog. And in a conversation, then next thing you know, he's in my office taking the assessment and stuff like that because he's having challenges in his life. And I just gave him some really quick things. Never saw him again, but he just went off and just like, oh my God, this is like a game changer. And then I think he changed his life and turned things around, but I don't know where he went. But I mean, it's one of those things where, yeah, it's heartbreaking that before, and especially that we would see people, they in that moment see that glimmer of hope, and then because the tool where it is today wasn't in their pocket all the time to be able to say, oh yeah, I got to go here. Oh yeah, I got to go do this. Oh yeah, let me ask this question. That it just faded back into the default, right? The Einstein effect, the Pavlov's dog thing, where they're like, okay, well, this is what I'm comfortable with. This is what I know, right? And what even though it's not me, it's sort of me. And I learned how to live with this sort of me. So it's too hard to break away from that right now. I have other things I have to do. It's deprioritizing of the honoring of self, right? Know thyself, know thyself, know thyself. But so many people say, well, what's next? Honor thyself. Use high. Ask the questions. Commit to yourself, right? And whatever we can do to create that and make it easier for people to do that, that's what this is all about.
I don't know about the know thyself thing, because before all of this, again, personality assessments, personal development, everything, went to the events, listened to the audio tapes, did the courses, totally different than what I thought myself was.
Right.
And
that's
that for me was a huge shift.
Yeah, that's why there was no honoring of thyself. You can only know thyself, but if you don't truly know the authentic self, honoring yourself doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right. And so that the reason why most people don't know about that next step, because it's not just about knowing yourself. It's also about then how do you honor yourself? That how, like what now, right? The how now, brown cow is this. It's high.
High is the how now, brown cow.
Yeah.
We're gonna run that by marketing. I don't know I don't know if I love that one.
I think that's a Bugs Bunny thing.
Regardless. All right. Well, we shared some high prompts. I don't want people to have too many prompts because then we'll do nothing with it. But any last advice, any last favorite prompts or fun things to do with high that maybe you wouldn't think of after first downloading the app?
I think we talked about, some of the things. I think, okay, what we were talking about in the last episode is like, okay, when in doubt and you don't know what to do, focus on getting good at feeding your drivers, right? Use high to start creating a repository of activities that you can do on a daily basis that are natural for you, that will naturally keep you in an optimal state, right? You'll notice that the app will remind you what's the optimal trait that you should be in at different times of the day. And it reminds you every day for a reason. Okay. If you're not sure, ask high. It's like, okay, what can I do to honor this trait that I'm supposed to be in right now? Right. Like if it pops up and say the most optimal trait for you to be in is regal. Well, what does that mean? Ask high. It's like, well, what can I do that? The reason why you want to do that is we're reminding you is like encouraging you to restructure or slowly restructure your day to honor your natural flow throughout the day. So every day becomes effortless as you go through from morning to night. Right.
I'm glad you said that one because that just brought me back to our retreat a few months ago and the shifting gears or the honoring what trait you should be in right now. Asking that and paying attention to what the banner in the app says, or if you have your notifications turned on, you'll get that notification that it's time to shift into a new trait. That was something that people got a lot of value from, but it was kind of hard to understand at first. They're like, what do you mean shift gears? And we talked about this, I think 2 episodes ago, but asking high in the moment, give it the context of what you're doing. If you're about to go into a meeting, if you're about to go talk to your spouse or talk to your kids after a rough day, give it the context and say, now either what's the best trait for me to be in, or how do I honor the trait that is recommended in the app? Those are two cool prompts for high.
Yeah, exactly. And also maybe asking, okay, what can I do right now to prepare myself for having this conversation with my wife or to spend time with my kids? What trait should I be in? How do I get there? What drivers should I feed to make sure that I have the energy to do that, right? What can I do to prepare myself? And here's the beautiful thing is that it doesn't take all day to get yourself energized in the moment. Right? The minute you do an activity, this is why I want everybody to start creating their own private repository of all these different tasks. And we're going to actually add that in there so that High can remember that for you as well. And you can store it in your app somewhere where it's a go-to thing so that you see this, do this. And High will maybe even suggest it for you. It's like, hey, you did this last time and it worked really well. Why don't you try this again? And it'll give you an immediate jolt of energy just so that you can tackle whatever is coming up right now.
Yeah, I'm thinking I've had so many conversations with people on my podcast, shameless plug, Harmonious at Lunch. And it's experts and consultants in the business world. And what we all want is harmony. It's not balance, work-life balance, it's work-life harmony. And as you were saying that, it's, shifting gears from being in work mode to being in dad mode or home mode or mom mode, husband mode. This is the secret weapon. Is that simple little prompt before you go from one focus to another. Just take the 30 seconds, read what it says, do what it says, and it will absolutely change your life.
Yeah,
I'm so excited.
we know what this feels like because we hear it in music all the time. When there's a key change, when there's a tempo change, and it's done in a harmonious way, it's enjoyable. It's lovely. When it's not, as well, right? You'll know. It's like, oh, that was jarring. What the heck? Right? And then it takes a lot of energy to recalibrate in that moment. It's like falling off and climbing back on again. It's like, okay, what happened?
It's like anytime I hear a Prince song come on, I'm like, what is that? I'm sorry, Sean. I love you.
Sean's not on. Sean's not on right now, so that has no relevance to anyone.
He's gonna watch and just like, he's gonna have to go shift gears now. He went immediately to anger. So go listen to last week's episode about anger and where that lives. That's where Sean is right now. But anyway, moving on. This was fun. That's a lot of high prompts for you to go try. So go do it. Download the app if you haven't already. Go start prompting high and just have that conversation. See what you learn, see what you get out of it. And then the challenge from before, go to the network section, see if your friends are there. If they're not, share the app with them. Elevate your relationships to the next level. Start communicating with people better and see what happens to your relationships. I challenge you, try it out.
And if you found something that works, we'd love to hear about it. Share in the comments below, anywhere where you see this, a prompt that worked and what it did and how it shifted things for you. Or even if you have questions like, hey, I've been using this, I can't for the life of me figure out how to get this prompt to work properly, to get Hi to support me in the way I want to be supported, by all means, post it below and we'll be more than happy. We'll watch it and we'll actually respond.
Absolutely. And in the show notes, description, wherever you're watching or listening to this, we are currently running Beta Breaker Club live trainings and also doing some high trainings as well. So all that information is down there. You could join us. We'll just work on it live, see what prompts are going to help you, show you how to use the app. It's all 100% free. There's no paywalls. There's no registration, email walls or anything like that. We really just want to help you genuinely improve your life, your business, whatever those intentions are. We appreciate you watching or listening another episode of Running with Scissors. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Running with Scissors. Have you downloaded the HumanOp app yet? Head over to humanop.com to experience the power of this technology for yourself. See you on the next episode of Running with Scissors.